Hello everybody, welcome to episode 47. Today we're going to be making the items for the shop that you can actually purchase. We've got the basic structure here of the shop. We've got, the word, a little character, just like tells you some stuff. And we're going to have the bombs, the bow, and the hookshot that you can actually purchase with the coins that you get from the grass and so on, kind of in a Zelda-like style where the items will just be on this little table. You'll be able to walk up to them, activate them, get a little description, get a yes, no, and so on, and be able to buy it, reduce money, all that good stuff. Now, from hearing that, you might think it's kind of complicated. It's actually really not, just because we've actually done quite a lot of the work we need already, just in the nature of writing our dialogue system, being able to like make choices in dialogue and stuff like that. We've done a lot of the work that we needed to set most of this up. The first thing we want to do is modify the kind of test section that we had in OGame. So I'm going to bring this up. OGame's create event. You may remember that we have this kind of section down here. I think I added this comment in myself. I don't think we added this at the time. I think it looked something like this. We made sure to leave a little space in between, right? Where we do all the basic setup for our items that we know is going to be in the game, and then we had this temporary stuff that we were like setting bomb, bow, and hook to be true, unlocked, and setting player has any items to be true, and all that kind of stuff, right? And player ammo for bomb and bow, just so that we had some ammo and had this unlocked so we could actually test those items for working. We don't want that anymore, so I'm going to just delete all of that. Then that means when we run the game, we shouldn't have any items. You can just test it real quick. See, we've just got this little blue box now that comes up. We don't actually have any items. If I press Q and E, we just don't have anything. Next up, we're going to make a new object for the shop items themselves. So I'm going to do it we'll do it in entities because it is going to be a child of P entity. Right click anywhere here, create a new object, and we're going to call it shop item. Okay, simple as that. And the sprite we're going to assign to it is actually just going to be the exact same sprite we use for items in the UI, sitem UI, just so it can have those same little icons. Okay, obviously the first one's invisible because it represents nothing, but you remember if we just click on this, the different icons. Okay, there's no reason for us to make a new sprite. We have one that does everything we need right there. Okay, back over at this object that we've just made, we're going to add the create event. And we're going to, actually before I do that, we're going to open up parent, and we're going to assign its parent to be P entity. Okay, just like all of our entity objects up to this point. Let's just get rid of you there, just so that it inherits all that good stuff. And then in the create event, obviously you'd have to right click and hit inherit or whatever. But we've already made it here, so I'll just type invent inherited to make sure it's actually inheriting all that stuff from shop item that we want. And then the only other things we want to add in here are image speed equals 0, and if global dot player item unlocked, open square bracket item, which is going to be a variable we'll set up. If that's true, then instance, if I can type, instance destroy. Whatever. I've got a new keyboard, so my typing, I think I said this in the last episode, still not wholly used to it yet. So my typing might not be, it's never usually great, but it might be even worse than usual. Okay, let me just zoom in right there, just make sure you see that. Okay, so in event inherited, so we're getting all the create stuff that we would normally have from P entity. Image speed equals 0, stop it animating so we can animate. Well, we don't want to animate to the doors, just so we can set the image index independently to be whatever the correct item is. And if we already have the item unlocked, then we just destroy the object when it gets created. So when we enter the shop, if we already have one of the shop items there, we've already purchased it, we just get rid of it. You might want to add some sort of flag for doing that as well. That's like if this is a repeatable item, like if it's an item that you can buy multiple of, say if you want to be able to buy bombs over and over as like a refill thing, that's perfectly reasonable. Then you probably want to add some sort of variable definition flag that you can assign for a specific item to make it so it doesn't do this and doesn't do the destroy if that particular item is something you want to be able to purchase again and again, I'm happy for none of them to do that though, so we're just going to leave that for now. Then I'm going to open up variable definitions. So we've got all of the good stuff from P entity in here that we usually use to set up our various different entities, and we're going to modify a couple of them real quick. We're going to modify, first of all, entity activate script. By default is going to be new text box, and entity activate args, just to give us a template of what the dialogue is actually going to be. Don't worry too much if you've forgotten exactly how we define like the arguments for like making the text box, because I'm just going to show you again here. Remember, we make an array, as it was kind of already shown to us there with the square brackets and -1. We want an array that's going to have the initial string in it, which is going to be just item description. So we're going to have something in there for each item that's going to be like, this item does such and such. Bombs can be used to blow up boulders and so on, right? That's the sort of thing we're going to put in there. A comma after that string, so the next entry of the array. It's going to be 1 by default, which is going to give us that sort of transparent blue background, which I think is good for just interacting with items. It's not dialogue, it's not a signpost. It's like a sort of a game meta thing. That's kind of what I'm using that background for. So background number 1. And then the third entry of the array is going to be another array. So we're going to open another square bracket here. And it's going to be a couple of strings which are going to give us the options that the player is going to have to be able to respond in this text message with. Okay, and if you remember how that works is we make a string for each one and we put a number and a colon at the start, which tells us which what that response should actually do. We have a script that's like dialogue responses or whatever that tells us what each one of those should do. If you've been following what I'm doing so far, then you can just trust the numbers I'm going to put in here, which is the first option is going to be option number 6, and then a colon, and purchase, and then end that string there. So it's like a string that just contains 6 colon purchase. All right, so the option that we're going to show is the word purchase, and it's going to perform reaction number 6 when we select it. All right, and then after that string, comma, another string. This one's going to be reaction 0, which is just our default one that does nothing at all. Because if we want to say no, we don't want to buy it, and we just want to end the conversation. Very, very simple. We don't have to write anything complicated for that one. So we can just be response 0, no thanks. Could be our default string there. Close the string, and then remember, of course, to close that second array. So you should have 2 square brackets on the end there. That's quite a long like string to write in like a little box like this. I'll stretch it out just so we can actually see it all at once, and I'll do like my bigger zoom in there so you can actually see the whole thing. Make sure you get it right. Lots of little accidental mistakes you could do in here, like with the square brackets and the commas and so on. Try and make sure you understand it, okay? It's an array with 3 entries, and that last entry is another array of just the different options that we have to respond to the message with, okay? We're actually going to modify this per each one anyway, because we're going to have different item descriptions and so on, but like the general idea is there. Next up, entity shadow is by default on. I'm going to toggle that and turn it off because we don't want these to cast a shadow. I think it looks better without just sitting on that little table. And those are all the default entity variables we need to set up. Everything else can stay the same. And we're going to add a few new ones specifically for our shop item. Okay, we're going to add 3 new ones, I think. So I'm going to add 3 new ones. We'll zoom in just so I can see what I'm doing. And this first one is going to be called item. Its default value can be item.bomb. So you remember our enum that tells us like which item a thing is. So by default, a shop item will just be bombs. We can just change it as we need to. Item cost will just default 0, and item amount is going to be our last one, and we'll default that to 0 as well. Okay, so you can see how this works. All right, we just set up the type of item, how much it costs, and how many of that item you get. Important to set this to 0 as well, because we're going to like add this item amount to that item slot for the player. And you remember how our hook shot and things like that work is that their item amount is specifically set to like -1 or 0 or something like that. Either way, we don't want to modify it, because if we modify it and it becomes like a positive number, our game's going to start thinking that our hook shot has like ammo, and it's going to start like drawing it in the UI box and so on, which we don't want. All right, so make sure that that stays 0 for the things that you don't want to have ammo for, right? So I just want to show a quick reminder, because it's been a long, like it was quite early we did the dialogue system, so you might not be remembering how exactly that works when I'm talking about the different reactions. I can't even find, there it is. I couldn't even find the script. Dialogue responses. So this is what happens when we provide those different options, right? So we put option 0 here. When we say no thanks, it's just going to break, and it's going to literally do nothing. And the same as if we just don't have an option specified. And you can see we've defined options 1 through 5. but we haven't defined 6. If yours looks different because you've done other things in your game and you don't just have you gave response A and things like that, you just want to pick one that's unused and put that in the shop item, right, as whatever as the response for actually buying the thing. We put it to 6, which we haven't defined yet, and since we haven't defined it, it'll just go to the default one, which will just break. So if we put it in at the moment, it won't do anything regardless of each option, but we should be able to see both options there. So I am going to go ahead and go to our shop, and we're actually going to place these in the game and set them up, even though the functionality isn't all quite there yet. So if I grab O shop item, go to the instances there, and just hold Alt and click. Might be a little bit weird because it's like an invisible sprite, but you just have to sort of trust when you hold Alt, you have got it under and click, and you'll get this little blue thing come up. You can see it's appeared there. Then we can just double click it, and just so we can see it, that'll be useful. Just tick its frame up by 1, all right? And then it can be helpful as well then just to copy and paste so you can see it right away, and just put another couple in there. But for this first one, we're going to go to the variables. We'll come down to the bottom here. Item should be item bomb. That's correct. That's what we want. Item cost, we'll make this cost, I don't know, 10 gold. And item amount, 5. So you pay 10 gold, you get 5 bombs. All right, and then the bombs go away. You've unlocked bombs at that point is the idea. Okay. As I say, you could make a thing where you could come back and keep buying the bombs. I'll leave that up to you if you want to do that. I've already explained kind of how you would do it. Good piece of homework for you to do if you want to work out how to do that. But we're going to leave that there. Okay, so item bomb costs 10, item amount 5. That's fine. Close that. Bring up the next one. We're going to set the frame to be number 2, which is going to be our bow. Open the variables again. Come down to the bottom, and then we're going to change item bomb to be item bow. Okay, item cost, we'll make that 15 just so it's different, and the item amount, we'll make that like 10 or whatever. You get like 10 arrows. We'll make it 15, you know, one gold per arrow. All right, that's fine. And then this last one, do the same thing. First of all, toggle its frame up twice so we get the hook shot showing up there. Scroll down to the bottom, toggle this. Item bomb changes to item hook. Item cost will change to 25, and item amount we leave at 0. Remember, because this is, you know, it doesn't have ammo, right? So that's that. And those are our 3 items all set up. So hopefully we should be able to just test this now. Load the game up. We come into here, walk into here. I know that transition's still wonky, but we'll come to fixing that eventually. We're going to interact with this, and you see it comes up, item description, purchase, no thanks. Doesn't matter which we select. Nothing's going to happen. And obviously if we're in between here, you can see we were able to activate these, and it's coming up with that message, and it's still working just as we expected, right? The one thing we forgot to do actually is put the description in for each one, so we can go ahead and do that. Let's just go to the bomb, come up to the top where enter the activate args, and we just want to replace this one string at the top with a simple like 1-line description of whatever the things are, and probably however much money it costs as well. So in here, let me zoom in again. I'm going to just in the place of where item description was. Okay, so you might not have seen me get rid of that, but it was there, right? Item description, just this very first string. I'm going to swap that for bombs, in brackets, cost 10G. I think it was 10G. Make sure you do get that right. And then /n for a new line for blowing things up. Yeah, because we've got about room in that box to do a 2-line description. So we can do the name of the thing and how much money it is on the first line, and then the description of it on the second line. We'll try and keep that consistent, all right? So bombs, essentially for blowing things up. I'll stretch that out a little bit. It's getting harder and harder to see. It's one of the weaknesses of doing it like this, is it does become sometimes a bit hard to see everything you've written in one of these. But it's still a handy way to do it, in my opinion. Right, so we've got bombs cost 10G, new line for blowing things up, and that's all just in that first set of quotation marks, okay? And then just do something similar for the other ones, right? We're not going to sit and make you watch me do it for all of them. I'm just going to go and do it, and we'll just speed it up, all right? All right, I've set that up now. It might not be perfect. We'll find out in a second. I just sort of slammed some stuff in real quick. But this is where we test it, right? So we talk to this now, and it says bombs cost 10G for blowing things up. Purchase or no thanks, doesn't matter which we pick. Bow costs 15G for shooting arrows. And grappling hook costs 25G for crossing gaps and dragging things. There we go. It all looks fairly consistent. I think, oh, we missed a colon there. It's important, you know, just go through and check and just make sure your strings are consistent. More things you can do to make it easier for yourself to make them consistent, the better. We've actually made it a little bit tricky because we're having to remember to do a new line or capitalization and all that kind of stuff. But you just sort of have to check, you know, just make sure you got it right. But that all looks okay to me. We're just going to change that in this one. Just put that colon in there just so that it all looks the same. But that's our items all set up so we can interact with them. Now we just need to make it so we can, you know, that purchase button actually does something, right? All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to come into dialog responses first of all. I'm going to add a new case here. Let me just make this nice and big. Case 6, remember, is our purchase one, and we're just going to write purchase item because we're going to declare a function that just does all this for us. I'm just coming here so we can see, we get the idea of the flow of how this works. It's going to come into here, into dialog responses, go to case 6 and do a purchase item. So that's where we're even going to do our checking to be like, do you have enough money and so on, right? We don't care about this right now. We just know that the player wants to try and purchase the item. So I'm going to do purchase item, which will stay blue for now. Open bracket, and it's going to be like activate dot item, activate dot item amount, and activate dot item cost. All right, those are the 3 things we need. All right, semicolon and then break at the end there, so it'll be cleaned up nicely. You might not actually need to write activate dot in here. And we do it because I know I definitely have this variable. I remember having it. It's in my script. I told myself I had it, which gets, you know, the ID of the instance. But I think this script would actually run inside that instance anyway. It's either that or the player. I always forget which way around it is. But it doesn't matter if you forget, if you know that you've got these variables set up that can access the thing, and then it might be redundant, but it's helpful. Honestly, it's a helpful redundancy if it is redundant, because it means we know exactly what instance we're getting this from, rather than being like, oh, does this come from this? Is that being run in the player or whatever? No, we know exactly where it's run from. All right. The more work we can do to make things less of a headache for ourselves, the better. Okay, so that's why we do that. So that's the, or that will be calling our function when we've actually declared that function. So now you might guess what we need to do next. It's actually make this function. We could even do it in here, but I'm going to keep to doing do it how we've been doing it so far, which is to make a new script for each function. Purchase item. All right. Do make sure it's called the same thing, and the variables it's going to have are going to be item, amount, and cost. Right, because that's how we just set them up in dialog responses, right? The first thing we want to check in here when we go to purchase an item is, can I actually afford to buy it? So I'm going to check if global.player money is greater than or equal to the cost. Assuming it is, we can go ahead and buy the thing. If it's not, we can go ahead and just by writing new text box and not enough money. You'll see me do that all the time, by the way, with this new keyboard. It's doing at instead of that because it's the US layout. It just is what it is. Not enough money, and then background 1, and we don't want any further responses to that. So simple as that. If you don't have enough money, we just do this text box, and then we're done. That's all the response needs to do. But if we do have enough money, well then, gosh, I guess we need to go about actually giving you the item then. So global.player has any items needs to become true. It's obviously going to become redundant after the first time this has happened, but there's no harm in that. It just means every time we purchase the item, we know we've purchased an item, so we know that you definitely have some items now, so we just assign that to be true. There's no point wasting our time and being like, oh, check if this is true before making it true. Just set it to be true every time. Nice and simple. All right. Global dot player item unlocked item is now true, because we'll know those enums will line up, and we just take that item and we say, well, we've unlocked it now because we bought it, so it'll be a thing we can now select on our Q and E in our little box in the corner, right? Global.player ammo item plus equal amount. If you wanted to be really safe, you could do a thing and make sure that, make sure if the ammo for this item does not equal -1 or something like that, and so on. But I think it's easy to just make sure you never set, the hook shop item to give you any ammo, otherwise it'll screw things up, alright? But that's why, because we just strictly add whatever is in amount to this. Then global.player money will obviously need to subtract from that the cost. Global.player equipped can now equal item. You know, it makes reasonable sense. We just bought a new item. Let's just equip it for you right away. So you just bought it. You probably want to start using it. It's a reasonable assumption. You can not do it if you really want. And then instance destroy activate. It's going to get rid of the shop item because you just bought it. Again, you might want to, if you have that other flag that's I don't know, item repeatable or something like that, you can do if activate dot item repeatable, or if that's not true, then destroy the instance. But we're just going to assume that we're going to do that every time. All right, so we're just going to do instance destroy activate. Okay, that basically does all the work of actually giving you the item. Then we're going to in a sort of Zelda style way, when you actually get an item for the first time, we'll give you a little description of what it is and how it works, all right? A little more than the kind of 2 lines that we had on actually shopping for the item. We have a bit more space to give you some information, so we're going to do that. So I'm going to do var underscore desk equals not at a pair of quotation marks, all right, to stay a blank string. Then I'm going to do a switch statement, all right, with whatever item it was. We'll do a case for item dot bow and break. A case for item dot bomb. I've done that kind of a weird way around, but it doesn't matter since bomb is our first item. But it doesn't matter because that's what the enum is good for. We don't have to worry about it being 0, 1, 2 and remembering what number is what. And a default as well. The default is going to be desk equals no item description found. So that lets us know that something has gone wrong. If that comes up, it should never come up. And in item bow, we're going to write underscore desk equals the bow backslash and fire with the activate key to damage enemies. Backslash n again. Find ammo in the world. That's probably a bit unnecessary, but there you go. Semicolon and break. U towards things. You see how I'm using the backslash n? I'm just making sure you don't. It's very easy to intuitively want to add a space after that backslash n, but you can't do that because otherwise it'll add a weird space in your box. Not to add the space there, even though it looks weird. Or U towards things. And then another new line. Use with care. Right, and then the last one was just no item description found. Okay, so that's all those item descriptions, and then once we have that in a string of whatever it is, we're just going to do new text box desk 1, right? So it's just going to show us a text box with those messages in them. Nice and straightforward. And that's the end of that. And if it's not true, we give you not enough money, right? That's all there is to it, okay? And then we'll just go backwards to dialog responses. You can see this has now turned that nice yellowy orange color that shows it knows that there is a function that exists called that. We're giving it this. That's what's going to get called when we say yes, we want to purchase the thing. We're going to come into here. We're going to check that we have enough money. If we don't, we'll tell you that you don't have enough money. And if you do, we reduce that amount of money, give you all the stuff, and then just pop up a little message that explains what it does. That's it. That's all there is to buying items. I'm now going to go to OGame. In the create event, we're going to go to player money and just set this to 1,000, just so that we can actually buy these things and test it out. And then we're going to run the game. And hopefully, hopefully, for the sake of my sanity, this is all working. So, toggle the grappling hook, costs 25, crossing graps and dragging things. Purchase. We've lost 25 money. We now have the hook shot sat there and equipped. The grappling hook. Activate to hook things towards you or you towards things. Use with care. And then if I use the activate button, ta-da! We have the grappling hook. If I press Q and E, we can't swap to anything else right now, so let's buy the bow. Cost 15G for shooting arrows. Purchase. The bow. Fire with the activate key to damage enemies. Find ammo in the world. Cool, that did work out. We can shoot, I think it was the bomb one we were worried about. Reduce the money, gave us that, we got the ammo, and so on, right? Bombs, cost 10G for blowing things up. Purchase. Activate the light fuse, throw it in, blah, blah, blah. Okay, that actually fit for it pretty well. Did the same thing. Simple. All right, all working. There is one last thing you're going to want to do here, guys. So running the game from scratch again with no items unlocked, you'll notice that it's still possible to get arrows and things before you actually have that item unlocked. We kind of don't want that to happen. It can be confusing. You're picking up items that the thing you can't even select because you've not unlocked it yet or whatever. It's generally just not good. So how do we make sure that that's not a thing? Well, simply enough, we can come to O-Bomb Drop itself. I've actually done it here already. Let's just delete that event just so it's back to how it was. So you'll just have like these events in here, P collectible. What we want to do is I'm going to right click on the create and go to inherit event. We'll just get rid of that and just make sure that's at the top there. And then I'm going to put in a simple line. Let's maximize it nice and big. We're going to write if global.player, if not global.player item unlocked, open square bracket, collect script arg, open square bracket, 0, close square bracket, close square bracket, close regular bracket, instance change o coin true, close bracket, semicolon. Okay, so what this will do is it's going to take collect script arg 0, which you'll remember in the bomb drop and the collectibles in general. Our collect script down here is an array with the item type and I don't know however many it gives you, I think, in there. But you see the first entry of that array, entry 0, is item bomb, and the same will be true for O arrow drop. So what we do is we check to see if that item is unlocked. If it's not unlocked yet, when we would spawn a bomb drop, we just change that bomb drop into a coin instead. All right. You could also do instance destroy. It's up to you how you want to flavor it. I think like just, you know, if we were about to give someone a bomb or a bow and or an arrow or something like that, and we can't give it to them, I think in my head it's preferable to just give them a coin instead. Just in terms of balancing how things drop and so on. But it's up to you. You might not. I can see reasons why you would not want it that way. In which case you could just write instance destroy instead. But now I'm going to copy that line. I'm going to come to O arrow drop and do the exact same thing in here as well. All right. We can't just make it a thing of collectible because obviously some of the collectibles are things like coins and so on as well, right? That don't have that item thing set in their collect script arg and so on, right? But for O arrow drop and O bomb drop or any others that you have like that, that's a simple way to do that. So now if we run that, just with that simple change, we should find now that at the start of the game, all we can find is coins, right? We shouldn't see anything other than coins. All right, I mean, you know, RNG is RNG, but I think you get the idea. Let's go into here and let's buy the bow now. And let's come back out. We should hopefully, now we can start to see arrows mixed in, but still no bombs because we didn't unlock bombs, right? There you go. Super, super simple. All right, that's everything for this episode. That's everything about making your shop items. You now have a functioning little shop. You can go in, you can talk to a guy, he tells you that you'll need his wares. Eventually he has no wares, I guess, because you bought them all. But as I said, I told you how, if you wanted to make repeatable items, how you could do that. So feel free if that's the sort of thing you're interested in. And there you have it. That's how, and now we have no items at the start of the game, and in theory we would have no money, so you probably want to set that back as well, up to you, as and when or however much money you start with, but we'll just set player money to be 0 as part of our game loop. You have to go get money and be able to buy the thing. That's a good point. We never actually showed what happens if you try and buy it and you don't actually have enough money. So if we go to buy the bow now, we don't have any money. Just says not enough money, it just doesn't do anything. All right? Simple. And if you say no thanks, nothing happens still. There you go. Thank you for watching, guys. That's the shop done. Not much to go now. And I'll catch you all in the next one. If you found this video helpful or you enjoy the work that I do, you should know it's only possible and only exists thanks to the help of my Patreon supporters. If you become one of them today, you can get access to my source code, videos before they even release, and have a vote on the topics that I choose to cover. Doing so will help me make more, better quality videos for the future that are free for everybody to watch. So thank you to all my Patreon supporters, and of course thank you for watching. I'll catch you all next time.